Last summer, I was in Montreal for visiting day. I went to visit my son. And, where I come from in South Africa, we don't have this 2 month long breaks, summer break, summer. So I went to visit him. And on the way back, we were in Montreal airport. So we have triplets plus 5 kids. So during that time, we had arranged people to look after the children, 7 children who were at home. And on the way back, it was 6 a.m. We were in Montreal airport. As I get to the airport, I see on the screen, it says we are oversold. And if you'd like to get onto the next flight, we are willing to compensate you. I didn't even think twice because, with 8 kids at home, 7 kids at home, it didn't make sense for us. So I went to pray at the terminal at the gate. A few minutes later, after I'm in the gate and praying, I see a sign, announcement that says, we're looking for 18 people. We are 18 people overbooked and we're willing to pay $600 per person to be bumped off to the next flight. Again, I didn't think much of it because $600 for me, $600 for my wife, $1,200. The kids are at home, can't do it. A few minutes later, we hear an announcement. We're willing to pay $1,000 per person, and it's in Amazon gift cards, which is basically cash. Since who doesn't buy everything on Amazon today? $2,000, very tempting, but I figure you haven't bought me yet. A few minutes later, we are 6 people overbooked. We need 6 more people to approach, and we're willing to pay $1,300. I look at my wife and I say, let's do it. And then I think, how are we going to do it? How are we going to arrange care for the children? We don't do it. And finally, a few minutes later, an announcer comes over the announcement and he says, we have 2 more tickets left, which we need to get rid of. And we're willing to pay $1,600 each. It's $3,200. I look at my wife, I say, that's it, we are sold, I'm doing this right now. I go to the desk and I say, here I am, I'm willing to do it. When is the next flight? And the guy tells me the next flight is tomorrow morning. I look at him and I say, you know what, even for $3,200, I can't do it. Not tomorrow morning, I wouldn't know what to do with the kids. And my wife and myself got off and we left $3,200 on the table. See, the thing is like this. What the Talmud says, there are 3 things that change a person. Number 1, changes a person is alcohol. Every single person has a limit how much alcohol they can drink. And if you have drunk alcohol and it hasn't made you drunk, you haven't reached your limit yet. But every single person has a limit. By me, it's a tiny drop. The second thing is money. Money will change a person. If you have money, if you made $100,000, it hasn't changed you for the good or for the bad, you haven't reached your limit. Every single person has a limit how much money they will make, and it will change them. Some $1 million, some $2 million, $10 million, $20 million, but eventually money will change you for the good or for the bad. And the third thing is Torah. If you study Torah and it hasn't transformed your life, you haven't studied enough Torah. Every single person has a limit. By me, $3,200 didn't buy me, so to speak. But $1 more than that, and I'm telling you, I would have rented a car, drove to New York, even though it would be 6 hours, I would have figured it out. So today I want to share a little Dvar Torah on transformation. You see, the Torah says like this. The Gemara asks, Mordechai min ha-Torah minayin. How do we know Mordechai from the Torah? We just read the Megillah, Mordechai, Esther. Where do we know Mordechai from the Torah? And the Talmud answers from this week's parsha, which is Kitisa. It says, when describing the incense that we use in the temple, it says, Mar Deror. And the Onkelos explains what is Mar Deror, Meira Dachya. Meira Dachya is Mordechai, the same letters. What does this mean? So in the temple, every single day they used to offer incense. It consisted of 11 spices, 11 ingredients, of which we read many of them every single morning in our prayers. Atzari, Atziporen, Achel Bena, Alvana, Mishkal, Shivim, Maneh. More was a cheap spice. It says in the Talmud that when the Kohanim used to offer the Mar Deror, the incense every single day, it used to have a tremendous smell, beautiful, delicious aroma. So much so that when they offered it in the temple, in Jericho, in Yericho, which is miles away, the goats used to sneeze, and the woman didn't have to put on perfume because it smelled so good. What is this chief spice? So it comes from a rare animal in China, actually. Got to be careful what's happening in China today, but it comes from China. It's a rare animal called the musk deer, and the Kohanim used to take it, and one of its glands produces, when you crush it, it produces this substance, one of these reddish glands, reddish paste. You crush it until it becomes this powder, and it was used in the temple. That's why, by the way, the Rebbe's wife, for example, the Rebbetzin, was called Rebbetzin Musya. Chaya Mushka. Musya is a very popular name. Just like Ilana means tree, Shoshana means rose, so Musya is a very common name as well because it's named after this musk deer. In Tel Aviv today, by the way, you could buy in oil format, you could buy some of this spices things. Obviously, it's not the authentic thing, but you can actually buy it. So what is the connection between Mordechai and this musk deer? Because the Talmud says, how do we know Mordechai from the Torah? Because it says, Mar Deror, the chief spice, which is Meira Dachya. What's the connection? So the question is, how can you use this spice in the temple? Isn't this spice not kosher? Doesn't it come from a non-kosher animal, non-kosher source? Aren't we meticulous in using only kosher material, kosher things, kosher animals in the temple? Why are we using this spice which comes from a non-kosher source? So Rabbeinu Yoina answers, he says, that when you took this spice, even though originally it came from a non-kosher source, however, once you have crushed it, you have totally and utterly transformed it into something which is unrecognizable from the previous source. And now it's something completely new and can be used in the temple. And this, explains the Talmud, is the connection to Mordechai. You see, how does the Megillah introduce us to Mordechai? It says, Ish Yehudi haya b'Shushan habira u'shmo Mordechai ben Yair ben Shimi. Ish Yehudi, there was a Jewish man in Shushan, and his name was Mordechai. His father, Mordechai ben Shimi ben Kish. His father, his grandfather was Shimi. Who's Shimi? Shimi was a person who King David says about him, he cursed out King David. When King David was running away from Avshalom, it was at the lowest point in King David's life where his own son rebelled against him. His own son announced himself as king over King David, and King David had to run away because he didn't want to fight with his son. On the road, while he was running away, Shimi cursed him out. He called him an idolater, a murderer. So Shimi was an evil man. The Megillah introduces Mordechai, the tzaddik of his generation, the Rebbe of his generation, the Moses of his generation, introduces us as the grandson of Shimi. What is the Megillah trying to tell us? The Megillah is telling us that Mordechai was totally and utterly transformed. He had transformed himself, even though he came from an evil past, from an evil person, but he himself had totally and utterly transformed his life until he was unrecognizable as that evil gene, so to speak, just like the Meira Dachya, the Mar Deror, the incense, that when you've crushed it, you've totally and utterly transformed it into something new. This was Mordechai. He had totally and utterly transformed himself into something beautiful and new. The message for us is, what will it take to transform your life? For me, $3,200 I wasn't willing to do it. I was willing to do it for a little bit more. But Torah will transform your life. If you've studied Torah and it hasn't changed you, it hasn't made you into a better person, you haven't studied enough Torah. You need to meditate upon it, contemplate it, because it will transform your life. Mordechai is the living lesson of that. he totally and utterly transformed himself into the greatest man in his generation, saving all the Jews. Hope you all have a wonderful day. Those who are quarantined, hope you enjoyed this little message, which you could study and learn while you are in isolation. Take care.